Hey, welcome to my next video. Today I'm going to be taking you through my process of this illustration I made of a store I came across in Guanajuato, Mexico. So when I start a new illustration, I always like to do a very rough sketch to begin with. I intentionally keep it very loose so that I can quickly get the gist of the layout without too much thinking and planning. I have a tendency of spending a lot of time focusing on details early on, which can slow down that kind of creative flow for me. After finishing the rough sketch, I turn down the opacity and start to draw the line art above the sketch. Something to note, I always use a dark brown when doing my line art. For me, it feels more organic and natural as opposed to using a very saturated black. I think that part of this stems from working mostly with watercolor in the past, since it's kind of a rule that you don't use, or at least very rarely use, a pure black paint. So now after the line art is finished, I start to block in my colors. This is a really important step for me because this is when I'm also creating and organizing my layers, so I need to make sure I get them all in the right position. I always start in the background and slowly work up towards the foreground. Another thing to note is that I do not really think much about my colors at this point. It's more about simply blocking in my layers and getting them organized. This part for me is always kind of fun. You don't really need to think much about what you're doing. It kind of feels like you're just filling in a coloring book. As you can see throughout this entire piece, I am constantly adjusting the colors as I go. Sometimes I end up with an entirely different color palette than what I had originally planned on doing. Once I have all the colors blocked in, I like to go and delete all the line art. This is a technique that varies from illustration. I'm still trying to figure out a style that I really feel comfortable with, so every piece I kind of do differently. Here I'm starting to block in some of the cans in the fridge. For some reason I always have an extremely difficult times with cylindrical shapes, so objects like cans, cups, and glasses tend to be a bit harder for me. Filling in all these little details on the back shelf was a really enjoyable part of this illustration. One of the best parts about painting is when you lose track of time and you just become so immersed in what you're doing. It's just really enjoyable. I just put some music on in my headphones and let myself get lost in my work. I really liked adding these little hanging bags. I don't know what they actually were. I don't know, maybe bags of chilies or something, but I really like how they turned out. It added a lot more depth to the shelving too. Lately with my illustrations, I've been trying to push my limits a bit and add a lot more detail than what I normally would. So this piece was a great opportunity to kind of push the boundaries of what I'd been doing up until this point. This paleta fridge was something I had a really fun time rendering, putting all the little shiny details and the reflections. It also made me really crave ice cream, especially when working on this part here. I may or may not have walked down to the store and gotten a tub of ice cream for myself. This part, I'm just making some adjustments in the background, adding some texture to the wood on the shelving. This part was also pretty fun. I enjoyed doing the little Tecate logo and putting all the little details on the fridge door, giving it that kind of shine. Alright, and now we're doing my least favorite part of the illustration. As I said before, I, for some reason, struggle with these kind of cylindrical shapes and cans and stuff. So, I don't know. I had a really hard time making them look kind of natural and real. I'm still not really that happy with how they turned out in the long run, but it's a start. As you can see, I got quite frustrated with getting the cans right, so I switched over and started working on the cat. Lately I've been trying to incorporate more life into my pieces, so I've been practicing cats and people a lot more. This cat was actually part of the original photo reference that I was using for this illustration. It was a photo I took back when I visited the beautiful city of Guanajuato in Mexico. I saw the cat just sitting there in the sun, looking super happy, and I couldn't resist but take a photo of it. It definitely took a while to get to the point where I was happy with how the cat was turning out. I was just trying to experiment with a bunch of different techniques with the fur. I was looking at a lot of different reference pieces from other paintings of cats. But I think in the long run, I'm pretty happy with how it ended up. Here you can see me start to work on the steps in cobblestone. I still struggle with getting the textures right on stone. I usually end up spending the most time on the ground in most of my illustrations. I wasn't completely happy with the finished result, but it's just something I'll have to work on a little harder in the future. Here I went back and put some of the finishing touches on the cans. I kind of wish that I had spent a lot more time on them, but oh well. Here you can see me start to work on the Coke logo. This was pretty fun. I'm really bad at doing letters, so I think it turned out okay, but it's just a little piece of the logo anyway. And here is my favorite part of any illustration, putting all the finishing touches on the lighting. Adding the shadows and the light always makes the scene just come to life, no matter what you're doing. And yeah, the piece is basically finished at this point. Thank you so much for watching through the end. Feel free to like the video, leave a comment, and maybe even subscribe. If you'd like to support me, you can head over to my Patreon page and become a patron. I'll put all the links down below. Once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.